Okay, so we are streaming live into Facebook and looking forward to sharing with you all our guest when she gets here, but just wanted to kind of put a stand for the Indigenous people. All land is Indigenous land, wherever we are located here in the United States. And, tonight we're going to be, hopefully, barring no challenges in technology, we're going to be talking with Star Poole, resident of Williamsport, Pennsylvania, about systemic racism and her experiences as a Black woman, mother, and community activist. Star Poole is a Williamsport area school board director, and sorry, there's someone in the back there, and a facilitator for North Central Pennsylvania's Alternatives to Violence Project, as well as a panelist for Pennsylvania's Outrun Coalition. Star identifies as an African-American woman and has joined our webinar to share and gain knowledge and wisdom. And going to hand the webinar over to, so I'm Misha Safran, and I am an academic life coach and parenting coach, and part of my diversity, inclusion, equity, access mission to be an active anti-racist is to conduct these webinars monthly as sustainable action with my partner, Jodi Lewis, to bring attention to the fact that systemic racism is real. It's something that we don't like, we don't stand for it, and that we have chosen to do these webinars in an attempt to raise the voices of BIPOC community members to share their experience and their hopes, but not with the intention of relying on them to be educators for white people. And so, yeah, we just welcome everyone who is watching, everyone who is listening currently, and then also those of you who do watch or listen to the replay. And Jodi, what would you like to say?
Hi. Again, as Misha indicated, I'm Jodi Lewis. I am an attorney. I work for, actually currently in between jobs, but I work for nonprofit organizations. I was working for an organization as a legal director, doing work, family law mostly, representing survivors of domestic sexual violence. And I will be going to a nonprofit organization to do appellate work, helping survivors of domestic violence. And yeah, I mean, Misha came up with this idea and asked me to participate, and I'm glad she did, because I have recognized that as a white woman, I have a lot of privilege, and I didn't know the extent of that privilege and what that meant to others, even though I've always worked with a variety of individuals and diverse individuals. And I really had to take a look at myself and recognize where I have failed the BIPOC community by not speaking out when I should or speaking up when I should, and also not recognizing on a daily basis my own privileges and how that affects them and other people.
Yeah, so if you are watching and are able to type in the comments, whether on Facebook or in the chat, every time I start talking back, we would love to know what attracted you to attend the webinar. And if you are listening and unable to type at this time, we would love to hear from you, whether it be on Facebook, you can look up Jodi Lewis or Misha Safran and send us a private message, or you can send us an email either at jodi@safranconsulting.com or misha@safranconsulting.com, and we will type that in the chat. So I think that while we wait for our guest, one of the things that I would like to talk about is the fact that we have resources for any of our listeners and viewers. And I will pull those up and identify some of them. But these are resources for you to become more learned allies. These are resources for you to really educate yourself on, how, even if it's just like you had no idea about what happened to the Black Wall Street, or you have no idea that there's been this system of racism for over 400 years. There was an incredible video of a woman talking about how, it's a good, we're lucky that Black people do not want to have revenge, but rather equality. And, you know, there's a lot of power behind these words. And I was really moved by that particular video that I saw. She was very angry, as she should be. And she was really identifying that, you know, if we were just seeking revenge, this would be ugly, you know, but that Black people, people of color are seeking equality is a whole different ballgame. And yet so many people, typically white people, are very threatened. It's kind of like when you compare it to xenophobia, the fear of foreigners, you know, and foreigners coming in and taking quote unquote our jobs. And the reality is the United States, anyways, is based on immigration. That's how this country started. And sadly, it was based, you know, it started with people coming over and slaughtering the Native Americans. So we were all the immigrants. Even those people who came across were immigrants. And the Native Americans were the ones that had this land first. So it's rather hypocritical in my perspective. Again, take what you like, leave the rest. But we're here to talk about it in a very candid, open, honest way, that it still exists today. There's a way in which slavery still exists today. And so, yeah, that's where my heart is with this. So while I pull up the resources to give you some indication of what options you have, and it will go out in a follow-up email as well, you'll receive the 2 different Google documents where you can, there are books, there are Black-owned stores, there are podcasts, there are newspaper articles, there are documentaries. It's a huge resource of ways that you can educate yourself and become more learned, and things that you can, charities that you can contribute to. So yeah, I'll look that up and pull that up to share my screen. If I don't know if you want to share a quote, or if there's something you would like to share, Jodi, like to turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks. I didn't have anything specific. I guess I think something I've been thinking about a lot, and I do apologize, we're just waiting for our panelist, and hopefully she will be on. But there is a great podcast by NPR that's called Code Switch, and they're doing a lot of variety of shows and podcasts regarding racism and different things that have come up, systemic racism, BIPOC community. And we listened to one recently, and I've listened to one before. And I think for me, what resonated in both of them is that it's such a big, diverse problem and different perspectives, even within the BIPOC community, regarding identification, regarding oppression, what should happen, reparations. And I think it's just something for all of us to really think about regarding that, really looking at ourselves and being open to listening to others' perspectives, and really dive into what has occurred in our country, what continues to occur in our country, and reflect upon ourselves regarding what do we do on a daily basis that might oppress other people, and how can we make changes regarding that piece. And I think there she is. Yay.
All right, we're going to welcome Star Poole, make her a co-host here so she can join us. Star, if you could show your video, we're delighted. And there she is.
Yay!
Hello.
Started. We're live streaming.
Sorry.
Look, my dear.
You're
fine.
Hi,
You're fine. Now, can
Hi.
you hear us okay? Because we are traveling across country. Can you hear us
I
okay?
can,
Or there's a
yeah,
lot of
perfect.
noise.
Okay. Okay, good.
Okay, welcome,
I'm just gonna
Star.
do this so you know, so I can hear better.
Okay, I'll try to speak
So
up.
we already gave a little introduction to you, and we were just sharing with people our views on the fact that racism is real.
Yeah.
And we were, and I was just putting in the chat different resources that we've collected for people to walk through, such as Black-owned bookstores, reading lists, podcast
Really?
documentaries,
Okay.
presentations, videos. There's a Facebook presence of different people that we would keep
Nice.
websites and content and ways to donate. And so we're just delighted. We want to welcome you, Star. We've had you as a panelist before, and we're super excited to have you back. And yeah, we'd just love for you to. Oh, you just muted yourself. Feel free to. The microphone is yours. You are a guest, and your voice is what matters now.
I'd love to hear where you're at.
Okay, so can you hear me okay? Yay, okay. So thank you ladies so much for having me. I really enjoy these conversations so much. And I wrote down a few notes just to help me remember everything. The first time I just was so excited to be there that I just was soaking everything in and, giving my little information. But thank you so much for doing this. It's really appreciated, for people like myself so much. But
we're very happy to have you.
Thank you. You ladies are amazing. So my name is Star Poole. I live in Williamsport, PA. I'm a single mom of 5. I'm on the school board in Williamsport. And I do a lot of other things, a lot of nonprofit things, pretty much just to help my community, and I enjoy it so much. But for starters, like I said, I am a mother of 5. Luckily, my kids are with their grandfather right now. So today's my second day being by myself. So I'm so happy to be here with other adults, and thank you. And
I love that you're getting to have time for you. How beautiful is that?
Yeah, it's great.
So important.
It is. It really is. And they're having the best time. They're at the beach right now, so they didn't call me at all. So yeah, I miss them, but but this is so great. Thank you so much. But yeah, so I am a single mother of 5, and I've gone through so much. I moved here to Williamsport, PA, because of a traumatic event. The house I grew up in, me, my mother, and my brother, it caught on fire. So like a lot of, childhood memorabilia, everything like that was burned down. And so I moved here to Williamsport, PA, because my children's grandmother lives here, their father's mom. Even though he wasn't raised by her, she was so willing and open armed to let us come here, and thank God for that. This is a perfect place to raise your kids, I feel like, and I've been able to do so much. But yeah, so I feel like I've been going from maybe one traumatic event to the next. And up until around 3 years ago, I would say. So now things have leveled out, and my kids are doing great, and they kind of forgot all the negative things in the past, which was a lot. And I don't want to put it all on, systematic racism, but it was a lot of poverty and traumatic events that my mother went through and my brother went through, and my children began to go through. They were with me when their father put his hands on me, because he thought that I have one son and 4 girls. So he thought that someone had took my son to get his hair cut. And he was so upset about that he put his hands on me in front of the kids. And he later apologized. That's something that I am still healing from, honestly. But on my journey, these last 4 years, I would say, since that happened, I am a very sensitive person. So it took some time to get over that. But I've been doing so much, going on retreats and meeting so many different people that let me know that, people have gone through worse things than me, or they're going through the same thing, or even, they're about to go through it, or they're going through something even a little similar. And that's why I do these things, to just let them know that, there's a face like them out there, and that you can overcome it. So I'm on the school board right now, and I'm so happy to be here on the school board, and I'm doing a TEDx. And one thing I really want to talk about is that we've had our first Juneteenth in Williamsport, which to me, I moved here, like I said, because of their grandmother, but it was really because I really had nowhere else to go, and she offered us to come here. So coming here, it was like, it was kind of like a culture shock. I went to a high school with, it was in poverty, but it was a majority African American population there. So coming here, I felt welcome, and at the same time, I felt intimidated and scared and kind of like, where do I fit in? And this community is majority Republican. So it was kind of difficult, and I never considered myself running for anything, or I didn't see my place here. I had gone through so much. And pretty much at this point, we have our first Black mayor, and we've done so much. We've had our first Juneteenth last month, which was a big deal. And I feel like that is one of the, bowling balls that's taken down the representation that's been in this area. It kind of shows that there are more people living here, and it's just like a different tune. It's a major change. I can feel it. And that was a big thing for my kids to see, for my kids to come there and see all the faces like them, and the songs that they recognize, because we've been to that area a lot of times, and normally they play country songs, which we love as well, a lot of things like that. But for that day, we felt like we belonged in this area for sure. So I want to throw that out there.
Can you, because I mean, it's wonderful that you've got on the school board, that you're doing this work, that you're working to get more BIPOC community members represented in the community, and you now had Juneteenth happen. Some viewers might not know what that is. I'm embarrassed to say I did not know what Juneteenth was, because it wasn't in the history. When I went to school, it wasn't taught. And I learned about it as we became more involved in doing this work. Can you explain to the viewers what Juneteenth is and what that meant to you to put on the event, to get the community to celebrate it and to have an event that happened?
Okay, so
yeah, and I would say that I would love for the viewers to research Juneteenth, and more specifically focus on what it was for you, what it felt like to you, and when you say, there were people there that looked like us, there were people we felt like we belong. Yeah, to emphasize more of that, I would say, if you're listening or watching, look up Juneteenth right now, so that while you're listening to Star explain the significance of this event to her, that you can do your education. Because I definitely would love to hear you say more of what your heart, what pulled your heartstrings on that day for you in your small Republican white town, right?
Okay. So for sure, growing up, I'm 30 now. So I joined the school board when I was 28. I became a mother when I was 19. So my son is 10 now. He's going to be 11 in November. So growing up, I consider myself an American for sure. I celebrate every holiday, and I get all the prejudice towards why we shouldn't celebrate it. So maybe one time I won't celebrate it, but I still get the energy and the feeling behind celebrating it. So for sure, I taught my kids how to celebrate it. We celebrate every holiday for sure. And their father is highly prejudiced on celebrating holidays, but I make sure that I want my kids to have the same memories I had. So now Juneteenth is a holiday. And so up until this year, everyone collectively celebrate the 4th of July, which is great. I love it so much. And I still celebrated it. And it's the day that they say that, John, I just showed my kids a video. I'm not sure. I can put it in the link. But I know that it was a great war, and then against Britain, I believe, and then they won the war. And then when he woke up, the flag was still standing there, and it's a beautiful story. And it's like anyone listening to it would cry and feel as though, oh my God, this is amazing. You know what I mean? So Black, white, indifferent, you feel the sacrifice and the hurdles that they went through, and then woke up and still realized that their flag was still there, stuff like that. And that's what the 4th of July was after. And because of that, we celebrate that. But up until that point, Black people celebrated it, thinking that we were free at that point, and that slavery was over, and that we were all everyone was in agreement to it, and that we were all okay now, that everything was fine. But actually it wasn't, and it took some more time, and that's what Juneteenth is after. So like I said, me and my kids celebrate every holiday, you know, regardless of what. Maybe we don't go into depth every holiday, but we do it for a family tradition. But this year, it was a great way to add in the sacrifice that we as African Americans went through, and the fact that other people in the world are validating it and saying, you know, we get you have Black History Month, you know what I mean? But we feel like there's another day that you guys should be able to celebrate, you know what I mean? So this year, bringing my kids there, and it was so many things to do. It was so many different, and this was the first year, so maybe I'm not as adverse on everything as I should be. Like I said, I showed my kids videos weeks before, and we've been talking about this, but this is something new that we all as a country can kind of breathe a sigh of relief. Like, we are recognizing that this is a day that you guys want to recognize, and you guys appreciate this day, but we're not going to brush over it, you know, and we're going to celebrate it with you guys. And when I went down there, it wasn't just, you know, African American people. It was everyone, just like every celebration we have in the city is. There's everyone there. There's not just, you know, Caucasian people or Black people. For every event we have, there's always Black and white. And for Juneteenth, there was so many people and so many different people, different organizations, you know, and it really felt, like I said, it was the first year. I wish we could do it every month, but it was it's once a year, and it's a great way for our kids who are little, and for some people who don't know all about it, to really be able to learn about it and have other people learning with them, you know. So yeah.
That's I could see that really being very moving for you as a young Black woman, but also to be able to share with your children the passage and what it took to get to this day, you know. And yeah, it would be nice if it were not only every month but every day. Like once a year isn't good enough. But you know what, it's a start, right? It's a start.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And especially while my kids are little, there were a lot of teens there and older adults who was feeling the same way as I felt, you know, like, this is new, and, you know, should we be really excited, you know? But we all were kind of just trying to really get into it, like, this is what it is. We deserve, you know, people wanting to celebrate this for the longest, and we just got the date wrong, so now we got the date right. And, you know, so it just felt really good. It really, I cannot wait till next year. I'm not a big summer fan, but I'm like, this is fantastic. I wish it was in like fall, but
Well, I think this is the beginning of many more opportunities to celebrate Black, Indigenous people of color, right?
yeah,
So there could be another one in the fall too, a different one. But yeah.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah. So yeah, so I mean, so I wrote down some notes like about systematic racism, and again, I am a young mother of five. I have 5 kids. They all have the same father, and we've been together for a long time. And then things kind of disintegrated, I feel like, because I didn't have the best examples. He didn't have the best examples, and the examples we had were all corrupt, and everyone we've been around has been through trauma and this and that. You know what I mean? So that's why I appreciate being around people like you, women, you know, and other women, or people in general who just can tell their stories. They don't have to be the same color as me, but just say, you know, I've been through this, I've been through that, and you can overcome it. Because I feel like no matter what it is, it's systematic racism, but being able to address it and being conscious of it and knowing that it's going on, that's the best thing. And there is an awakening right now of people not being afraid of saying how they feel, or you know, understanding each other, and they know there is going to be a community for you with people that's going to understand as well. So yeah, I wrote down a lot of notes about education and police brutality. As we all know, my main thing in Williamsport as a young mother of 5 is that I feel like representation is important. So not a lot of people know about specifically police, I'm sorry, systematic racism, but they know about police brutality, or they know about some of the housing issues and this and that. But I feel like in this area, there is an awakening, and the world as a whole, there is an awakening, and people see that representation is important, and they need to see people like them in certain positions, and this and that, and that's the way to overcome everything. That's really how I feel, just having someone in that situation. So even like they say, I know when I have 5 kids, so, and I had them all naturally. I did use epidural, but I had them all, out that area. And I know I was scared every time because I had their dad, drilling in my head that, a lot of women die during childbirth and this and that, and this happened, that happens. But I feel like if you have more people like, you or people in this community that understand you, or that understand that, because I feel like systematic racism is based off of an inferiority, like people feeling like someone else is inferior than you. So I feel like that's all it is. So if you have more nurses, that understand what you go through or how you communicate, and have more lawyers and more judges, I feel like that's the way to overcome it. And that's by giving people a voice, and that's what you guys do. So
Thank you, Star. Yeah, it's I know that when I was a doula, I would help people with
yeah,
births as a volunteer in the medical center in California and because I spoke Spanish, it helped those families feel like they were that much more understood, right? Even though birth is painful no matter what race you are. It's also very exciting. But when you have somebody, whether it's the same color or speaking the same language or within the same community, there is that deepened sense of belonging and connection.
yeah,
And so, I think that sometimes people will hear, that a child, their world turned around when their first grade teacher was also Black. And some people will hear that and feel like, well, what's wrong with the white teacher? Well, it's not that there's anything wrong with the white teacher. That's the whole picture. It's not that there's anything wrong with the white teacher, but there's a sense of connection and belonging that's there because of that same race. It's not racism turned inside out. It's not racism backwards. It's that, guess what? There's something very similar here. Just like if I were to meet someone who was Black with hazel eyes, I'd be like, ooh, we got the same eyes, right? There's a connection. And so I know that in the education system, it can often feel very lonely when you are a white person in a whole school of Black people, or when you're a Black person in a whole school of white people. And so when you find that contact, that connection with people, or even just the fact that we are women, there's nothing wrong with men, but as women, we're bonding, we connect on another level. Right? So I don't know if you want to speak more to that, this notion of connection with same race or same gender, or and how that fits into your children's lives.
For sure. I feel like it is a connection, period. Because when I first came here, I was, like I said, based off a lot of trauma. Everything was about trauma. I feel like I moved there because of the fire, and then our dad wasn't around. He was always in jail, and then when he did come, he would be violent, you know what I mean? So, but the first women that I feel like in this area, because I have a lot of best friends and friends back in Derby where I came from, but I moved here, not by choice, but by force, you know what I mean? Because things went wrong. So my childhood home was done. So I moved here. And I was around a whole new group of people. And the first woman that I feel like was there for me, because I'm in a Muslim majority Caucasian area, you know what I mean, were 2 Caucasian women, and they were extremely, so it wasn't about, oh, maybe I shouldn't trust them, which a lot of people around me felt as though, because of their experiences of what they went through, you know what I mean. They felt as though you don't trust those people, and why would you even talk to them, and you don't do that, and why would you do an interview, they just want to get information, it's like. But at the time, I really felt like they were women, and the way they talked to me, they helped me grow. Literally every time I talked to them, they said it wasn't about our color. It was like, oh, I'm a mother, I was a young mother, and do this, you know what I mean? So I saw a different side of it, so that's what I connected on. So sometimes you're right, it doesn't have to be that. I know my daughter, my middle child, Karima. So she went to school at Stevens and then Cochran. And her first African-American teacher was Miss Sick at Cochran. So up until that point, she loved her teachers to death. You know what I mean? She would bring flowers for them or whatever she could do for them. And they were all, Caucasian, which is perfect. She loves them for who they are. But then when she met Miss Sick, when she had Miss Sick as her first grade teacher, she said, oh, I want to be a teacher. You know what I mean? She saw herself in Miss Sick. Miss Sick is a short woman with short curly hair, and she just, and she's so sweet and she's so dedicated on what she does that Karima said up until that point, honestly, she didn't say, she wanted to do it before, but up until that point, she said, I want to do this, and I said, well, you can do it, and now she's in third grade and she still talks about Miss Sick like that's her teacher. So I'm make sure I'm friends with her on Facebook so that so I can show her pictures and stuff because she's like obsessed. But yeah, it's
Well,
definitely
now
like
she can even see that she could be vice president, right? I mean, now
exactly,
she's got this
exactly,
as a vice president in office, right? Now
exactly.
she can be a teacher, which isn't a bad thing. I've been a teacher. A teacher is fabulous,
Yeah,
and she can also dream of being a vice president or whatever else to make an
yeah,
impact in the world that she wants.
it's true. Because even when Hilliard was running, I wasn't the biggest political fan, honestly. And I feel like some of it was because of the people around me, my family, who felt like we didn't have a say in this and that because of what they've seen and experienced. But even when Hillary was running, my kids were little, and I was telling them, "You see this?" Even though she didn't win, even if I wasn't a fan of all the things that she did. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Okay. Even if I wasn't a fan of some of the things she did, it was the fact that you can run, and that even if I lost, being on the school board or I'm going to run for city council, even if I lose for that, it's the fact that you don't have to be afraid to do it, and I feel like that's another effect of systematic racism is feeling like, well, I shouldn't apply for this house. They're not going to let me in. I have to have someone else represent me, a friend, what I mean, so that I can get it in. And then as educate, I'm not going to get into these programs. I'm not going to get into these schools, you know what I mean? But I feel like a lot of that is changing and people are starting to see. Honestly, I feel like from Trump, there was like an awakening on both sides. There was an awakening of people feeling like more bold, like they could be more outwardly racist. And then there was an awakening of people like, oh my God, everyone sees it as well. Or, people know it's a housing issue or this issue. And there's been so much representation and people all over, Kamala, and everywhere you look is like someone that, understands you, that understands you. So it is not all about the color of their skin. Like I said, sometimes it is that it's a woman or a woman, even if it's a white woman who's been through certain things as you, or, that was divorced or had kid, it's just all about the connection for sure. But yeah, there's still a lot of barriers. I went to an education summit. I'll just throw this out there a few months ago. And the thing is, my son is in the gifted program and he has amazing grades. He's in fifth grade and he's going to be going to fifth grade. And up until what I was told is up until a few years ago, it was kind of an issue getting young African American kids into this program. And then I started looking into that because I know when I was younger, I got the same grades. I feel like I gave up 11th to 12th grade. I was going to two different schools. I was going to my high school and Votech. And I kind of felt like, of course, my mom wasn't as supportive. She was on drugs. And my brother is my brother. And so it wasn't much support. But I felt like if my school was there and if they seen the things in me, that maybe there would have been more support. So now I'm looking at my grades and his grades is like he's being pushed and my daughter is being pushed, you know what I mean? And I feel like because of the awakening. But I just had a whole conversation with someone, Carmina, who literally laid out the statistics and the numbers of all the kids that were lost in that program, all the kids that should have been in that if all they had was a validation that they could, continue on. But that's effect of systematic racism is they feel like a certain group of people should be in this program. And if it's too many of this people, then how are these people going to shine? You know what I mean? So that's one thing that, you know, I talk to, and it's like knowledge is wealth at this point. Knowledge is power. So and knowing that this is there, I make sure to tell all the parents I can, you know, make sure your kids do the best grades they can. If they're doing the best grades, make sure you ask so they can be gifted, you know what I mean? Because that'll be a great boost for them. And who knows where they'll take off to, you know what I mean? But up until this point, I feel like people are really addressing it and addressing the schools and talking about it. So whereas it really will be an advantage. But that's another thing. Whereas I feel like a lot of young boys and girls could have really shined better if they had the validation long ago, including myself, honestly, you know what I mean? I've been knew I was smart, and everyone knew I was smart, and I was the one people would call and when they had a question or how to spell something, or, you know, but the validation from school and the people around me, it's just great for anyone, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that academic acknowledgement should be for all, not just for the white kids or the rich kids. You know, that when you have, you know, it's interesting. There was quite a bit of excitement around Amanda Gorman speaking at the inauguration as an intelligent, articulate Black young, you know, Black woman, young poet. And it's like, there are a lot of Black poets out there. There are a lot of young women out there who are Black, and they should all be getting this extraordinary attention. You know, why do we, I mean, granted, Amanda Gorman should have the attention, and she was incredibly, I mean, I still have the words of her poem in me because she was televised nationally. And so this attention that you're talking about has supported in raising people, and it needs to be, I mean, that's another reason why we're doing the webinar, to raise the voices of Black people and give you the attention you deserve, as any person in the community should be able to have their voice heard, right? So I totally agree with you that your children, the community's children, can rise if we help raise them.
Yeah.
But if because of their color we limit them, or because they act a certain way, and then we attach that they are a certain color, I mean, it's wrong. That's gonna just be, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely, like I said, even for me, these conversations, these candid conversations are extraordinary. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it's a girl called Jetta who does like photo shoots. She has a page called Meet My Melanin, and she just does photo shoots for African American people who've never been photoshopped before. You know, it's like sometimes you don't feel beautiful enough, or you feel like, you know, you have the scar for this and that. Who wants to take my picture? And she takes the most beautiful pictures, and, you know, just a way to show people you have a voice and you have a face, and you're not just your color, you know. And even things like this, like I said, you two women, extraordinary women who do so much all around the world, you know, giving a conversation to this is amazing for sure. And even our old conversation, you know, I show my kids and I show my mom, who would never do this in life. She's, but, you know, it's something that it might take some time for people to, you know, to understand that is needed. But once they get it, they get it, you know what I mean? So, and it's a part of that awakening that everyone needs for sure. So.
You know, it's interesting, Star. I don't know if you know Connie Bennett. She has a salon in the Scranton area. She was one of our guests a few months ago. And one of the things that we actually didn't realize was she said to us that even if it doesn't go anywhere, just my opportunity to share and get it out of my body and say how angry I am and how sad I am that I have been, I meaning Connie, have been a victim to racism and systemic racism. She felt like that much lighter being able to just share this experience, and without being judged or criticized or questioned, like your experience is not your experience. I mean, that's not what we're doing here, right? And so it's good to hear from you as well, that you're getting to share this with family members that may not otherwise speak out and say what's going on for them or had gone on for them. And we hope that it's part of your healing, that you get to share what you're experiencing, and to know, I want our attendees to know, and also the people watching, that we don't say you have to share about ABC. We tell our panelists, you come here and get the microphone and share what you want to share. That there's no order of what we share here. And then you don't have to share what you don't want to share, right? But yeah, we're really, I'll speak for me, I'll let Jodi speak for her. I'm very grateful that you trust us and that you're getting this opportunity to say what your experiences are without feeling a dark light come over you, in the sense of, you know, I don't want you to feel suppressed, oppressed, or judged here.
Yeah, I mean, I know every time I did this is my second time, but when I showed it to people last time, it definitely was, like I said, just to know that there's a platform, and I can name, like I said, Meet My Melanin, maybe like 2 other platforms close to me that will allow this, you know, a candid conversation about what's going on, you know what I mean? So even watching it, even though like I said, my mom, she wouldn't do this right now, you know, and she's been through a lot, you know, she went through a majority white middle school and high school, and she's had rocks thrown at her and all types of stuff, you know what I mean? So she had a disability on top of that. So, you know, she had a double whammy back in the day, you know, in the 70s, you know, so she wouldn't do this at this point, but she definitely, I feel like it's an opening, you know, in your soul to be able to say, okay, so someone wants to talk about this. Are you sure? Okay, well, let's talk about it. You know what I mean? And it's nice, you know, just it's really appreciated. And I know every time I do this, like I said, last time I at least had my mom and one other woman saying, oh my God, I would love to do that. Not right now, but I like that. Okay, they're doing that. And it's kind of like, off your shoulders, you know what I mean, to say, okay, so even if I'm not ready now, there's things like that going on, you know, to where I could feel safe. So I appreciate it. I wanted to just add one thing, because honestly, you ladies know, um, even in this city, there's definitely a renting crisis, and it's not just African Americans. It's just low class people, period, low income people, to where homelessness is a serious issue. And I am at a hotel right now. I'm in between houses. And sometimes I feel like I am a statistic. I've been through domestic violence, a fire, homelessness, the low support system, and not because they don't want to support, they don't know how to support, and the magnitude of the stuff I'm trying to do. So right now I'm in between houses, and I have a house that I'm moving to. But it is, I feel like it's something that I look at a lot of women like me, that they're going through it. You know what I mean? It's not just single moms, maybe, period, single low income Black mothers. And it's, um, and it's something that I feel like it affects everyone, because I feel like a lot of us could be way more influential and way more productive in a better situation. Like I said, I am in a majority conservative area, a majority Republican area, and it's hard. But my goal right now is home ownership, and I feel like that is the goal. I'm 30 now. A lot of stuff I've done, I was young when I did it. I feel like for my age, you know, the stuff that I was doing is, oh, you did that, and you don't do that until you're older, you know what I mean? But everyone my age, younger, you need to own your own home, and that's a way to combat systematic racism. Even though in some areas it's harder to rent, and I don't want to name the areas, but I'll name one, my tourist bro. There's 1 or 2 areas that, you know, back in the day they had laws to keep us from renting. So they're slowly overcoming that. So I would say, don't let barriers get in your way. Housing is a serious issue for sure. And young women need to own their own homes, you know, regardless of a man, or, you know what I mean? So just throwing that out there. There's so many things to keep young African Americans back, or women back, or you know what I mean. But you need to figure out a way of home ownership, because with that, you can achieve a lot more. And I feel like I wrote that down, just like very important, because I feel like I said, it's something I'm going through. But regardless of all the things I've done, I could have done way more if I owned my own home and I didn't have to worry about who I'm going to rent from, and then my family doesn't have the support that they will want to have. So, you know what I mean? That's an important thing. I do own my own business now. It's new. And it's only because I had a goal of helping the community. So it's like a food bus, a grocery store on wheels. So that's something I feel like will help my family and help overcome barriers that may be in the way. So for sure, start your own business.
Can you tell people more about your business? I think that would be great. And if there's any way they could support you, I would love that, to put out, maybe if you have a Venmo, or people can send you a contribution to your business and helping you, or even to the purchase of your own home. There are people who are generous out there, and maybe they'd be happy to support.
Yeah, what I love is definitely more ideas added to it. So when I was growing up, my mom has a disability, so I never saw her run or do much. She's always had a walker. It's called Marie-Tooth syndrome. And it's like her hands are like this and her feet are like that. And she woke up at the age of 15 like that. So my whole life, she had me at 25. So she's been through so much. She's been told she shouldn't have kids and this and that. But when I was growing up, she couldn't come outside like that. So she couldn't take me to the store. She never walked me to school ever, never took me to school. You know, I don't know. She just felt embarrassed. So my brother always took me. But she would give me $2 or $3. And then every couple hours, it was like a bus that would come down the street. And when you walked on, it was like fresh fruit over here, some little meats over here, maybe some oozing noodles, some chips, some juices, little stuff. You can give them the $2, you get a juice, a pack of noodles, some chips, and stuff to feed you for the night when your mom couldn't get up and cook for you every 5 minutes. You know what I mean? So I don't have that issue. I have 5 kids, and I go crazy. Like the dad said, I feed them too much. You know what I mean? But I would love to be able to give them $2 and they go outside on a bus and get some, because they are really healthy. Get some peppers and add it to your noodles and some, you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of kids out here need that, because this is an area of some wealth, but a lot of the people that's wealthy obviously don't need to catch the bus, or they can get food for the night. Their kids are fed by 5 or 6, so they're fine. But just for the people with disabilities, this area has a lot of people with disabilities for sure. And I know when I was living at 2nd Street at low-income housing, they closed down the Wises, and a lot of people were stealing from there, honestly. So I feel like they closed that down, and a lot of people with disabilities missed out because they had to close that down because it was losing money. But I feel like with my bus that I have cameras, no one can steal. I'll have people on the bus, and then I have some stuff with people with disabilities. I will stop right in front of their house. If you let me know what time, we will be there. So I feel like that'll be kind of like a great just addition to the great things already going on in this area, and it'll be helpful. And I always think about my mom, like I said, her disability. I just feel like it'll be really grateful. They'll be grateful, and it'll be helpful. And I've been saying this for 2 years now, but I'm on the Chamber of Commerce, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I work with people at the Conversation Center in Williamsport downtown. But it takes money and it takes time, which I don't always have. So yeah, but that's something for sure. I feel like I have to give that to Williamsport, you know what I mean? And they can take it, and I'll walk, even if I walk away, someone else can take it over, and it'll be something they could do for years, Yeah, so.
That's very cool. That's wonderful. And to bring healthy food in, I think is really important.
Yeah.
There's a lot of you know, in California where I was living before, there are certain areas, all they have are like little convenience stores and they rarely have fresh produce, you know, and so
Exactly.
you've got areas that are impoverished, and then they're also just getting junk.
Process. Yeah.
There's no access to the healthy food. So I love that you would include that.
Yeah, for sure. Because I feel like we have, you know, first Saturday out here, or every Saturday they have the fresh produce and all of that, which would be great. But I feel like if people could walk on the bus, because I remember walking on the bus and seeing like the little area with vegetables, because the guy didn't care about that at the time. You know, we were in Jersey, and but people out here would love that. You know what I mean? There's so many local places that could it just be great. So to walk on and see, you know, vegetables all over here, and just like, you know, it is a major goal from that little vegetable area I saw when I walked on, and the mostly processed foods, to seeing like a little area of processed foods and seeing, you know, vegetables and fruits, and they would love that, you know, and fresh milk and almond milk, you know, just like different stuff that, you know, just the same thing I grew up with for those couple months I was out there, but like upgraded. Yeah.
It also reaches population that doesn't have transportation, right? I know when I was in Pennsylvania, in Scranton area, Lackawanna County, Susquehanna County, particularly Susquehanna County, there was limited access to transportation. There was no public transportation,
Yeah.
no cabs in one area, and you would be meeting that need for low-income individuals and areas where, you know, you talked about your mom being disabled, and meeting populations that can't easily hop in a car, that have the privilege, white privilege included, you know, hop in a car, go to the grocery store, buy what you need, versus going into the community. I love that aspect too of building community, right? And that you hit on it before, Star, and it's something you're doing, is that there needs to be more BIPOC community members in positions of representation, right? We have to, not even just positions, but everywhere, right? Your daughter seeing a teacher that she can identify with because she has the same color of skin and same background. You going to the community and bringing that, you being on the school board, we need more of that piece. And you bring, you know, your idea with having a mobile supermarket, mobile grocery store going into communities does it as well. People see a successful Black woman going into the community, I can do that too. So it's really amazing, that representation and having people around you that are, you know, are the same. We talked about, you find commonalities, whether like you find commonalities with us based on some different things, but also identify with people that are the same too, right? And having that ability to say, oh, there's a vice president now that is Black. There are people of color in positions of power. I can do that too. Yeah, it's just important. The work that you're doing is so important regarding really, you know, stretching yourself to be on the school board and this idea to start your business.
Thank you so much, for sure. And I think my daughter too, the thing is, like Miss Sick has her same hairstyle, so the little curly fro, you know what I mean? Because we all, you know, we love everyone's hair. I was like, I love your hair, I love your hair. So she's always, I love Miss Sick's hair. And it's only because she has the same hairstyle. And it's so funny. I'm like, okay. So I know what she's trying to say. So you just a little bit of representation. Because like I said, she loves all her teachers. She, for sure. And then also, yeah, the buses don't run out here on Sundays, which is so different from where I came from. It's so different because I know for sure, like we used to go to church every Sunday, and if we didn't have the car, what would we do if there was no buses or trolleys? You know, in Philly or in Jersey, it's crazy. So out here we will walk. And some days I'm just not in the mood, so we will miss a lot on Sundays. So even if they can come by, I feel like that's a treat, you know, for that bus to come by on Sundays when nothing else is running, and you know the only bus is running is the food bus, and it's like, oh, we're gonna catch it. It's like the ice cream truck. But yeah, for sure. And I thought of this because of a guy I saw with a disability that as soon as Wise closed down, like a couple days before it closed down, I took him home. I walked him to his house, even though I had the car, because he didn't want to get in the car. So I walked him to his house, and then the store closed down. I immediately thought, oh my God, what is he gonna do? I don't even know the guy's name. I don't know where he is. I hope he's okay. But it was like a young, you know, white guy. I feel like he was like in his young 20s, and he had MS. You know what I mean? So it was like, what is he gonna do? Walk all the way to white men? So stuff like that, thinking about him, thinking about my mom, thinking about my kids. Yeah, it's something I'm really passionate about, and I'm going to make it happen. I will. I don't have much support. Like I said, I don't have much money, but I have this idea that I feel like is great for the area, so.
Well, the greatest things come from ideas, right? And then it's about not only having support, but asking for the support. Right.
Yeah.
So so for where I am standing right now, where I'm sitting, whatever, I can say, if you're watching this webinar, if you are attending this webinar, if you are listening to the podcast, if you are, I would love for people to be able to support you and your vision, and other Black women, Indigenous, people of color. So feel free, Star, to put in the chat how people could, send you $10, send you $50, send you, whatever support, we will participate in getting you one step closer to that goal.
Thank you. So, like, if I am on the Chamber of Commerce now, the business is called Nina Kapenda, which means I love you in Swahili, because it's like, I love you, Williamsport.
How do you spell that? Nina Kapenda. Is it one word? Nina Kapenda?
Yeah, it is. NINAKUPEN. Yeah, if you type it in Google, DA. After
okay, Nina Kupenda. I just put it in the
if you
chat.
type in
so
I
we'll
love
have
you
it for later.
in Swahili, it'll pop up so you want to Google.
How awesome. I actually spoke a tiny bit of Swahili when I was 2 years old. 3 or 3. I lived in Kenya from the age of 2 to 4, but I don't remember any of it.
Oh my gosh.
So I love that.
So
Nina
cool.
Kupenda. I'm going to tell my dad about that. He loves that. Yeah. That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. So we are in an area that's super, super loud. And I know usually our podcasts or our webinars usually anywhere from an hour to 90 minutes. But unfortunately, it's really hard here to do a whole lot. So I'd love to give you the opportunity to share any last words or hopes or desires of our listeners and attendees, and then we'll probably be needing to shut it down a little earlier this time than usual. I apologize for that. But we're, again, traveling across country and didn't get to our destination at the time we thought we would. So, but yeah, I'd like to just hand over the mic again to you, and any last thoughts you want to share with people who are watching.
I don't know. I just wrote down, I guess my main point was just representation, and that systematic racism is built behind an inferiority complex, feeling like someone else is better than you. But if we all look at each other the same way, then we'll be fine. But it's really hard to get through that. But up until that point, the point is for people to see you. You know what I mean? I feel like as long as you're seen and your voice is heard, you let it out, you express it, and there are people around you that look like you and feel like you can express it as well. So just express yourself. And I feel like I've been trying to do that every day, regardless of housing issues and, no support, all of that. It's all about just doing the best you can, for sure. And I think about my kids. My kids were just in the soapbox derby. We were the only African American people there, and we're gonna do it every single year. I guarantee it. And it was so much fun, and it felt great for people to, see us there and kind of be like, oh, okay. But they met Fred Keller, who's a congressman in this area. He came right up to us and invited them to the pit at a racetrack thing. But stuff like that. My son plays the violin, and I just know I go out of my way to make sure just that we're everywhere. And sometimes not on purpose, but it was just like, if I see an opportunity, I don't always look at, are there Black people there or are there young moms there? I don't care. I'm going to open up that way. So I feel like that's the way to overcome it at this point. Don't be scared to do things you feel like you can't do or that people feel like you shouldn't do. Just try to do every opportunity and just try to break barriers. That's it. That's my main thing. And that's what I do every day. I'm a young mom. I'm on the school board, but that's, not enough. That's not getting me paid and stuff. So I still go through the stuff that everyone goes through. But I know that there's certain ways to get through this for sure. And I feel it, and take every opportunity that you can, you know, and tell the people around you, don't be scared to do it, you know, so, and we'll overcome it. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much, Star. Wishing you a lot of success, a lot of joy. Feel free, you know, to put in the chat how people can reach out to you or support you if you have a PayPal or Venmo. The folks who are, oops, you just muted
You
yourself.
muted yourself, Star.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry. I'm gonna
It's
put in
okay.
my email, and if they want to donate, then I'll just let them know from there, I guess, because I don't want them to just. But I'll put my email in the chat, and I would love to hear more ideas, and for sure, and just
Absolutely.
come.
And we can put that in the follow-up email that we send out to the attendees as well, with your you know, with your mission and your yeah, you're just a joyful spirit, and I'm really excited for you to pursue the purchase of a home, to pursue the success of your business, and I just appreciate, as having raised 5 children myself, you know, I really appreciate your dedication to your family and to yourself. Thank you for being here with us again.
You ladies are everything. Thank you for all you're doing. Please keep doing it, and please keep having these, because this is a breakthrough for a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Star. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And go ahead and put your email in the chat.
Okay.